If you still want to play, jump in. Okay, here we go. 14 questions. All of these relate to side angle, side, etc. Which condition does not prove the two triangles are congruent? Seconds. A little bit to the left. Okay, I'm totally disappointed that people picked hypotenuse leg. Okay? Absolutely. So we're hypotenuse leg, even though it's not part of the song, you can definitely do it because you could end up deriving using Pythagorean theorem the third side. So that's why hypotenuse leg is one of the ones that you can do. Which angle is congruent to angle B? Yay! And the main thing that I wanted you to see here is that when we do it, sugar shoots, it won't let me write on the screen. But when you do it, how it's like A, E, B, C, E, D, like you didn't even have to look at the picture. You just have to look at B and D to know that it maps. So like right here, if you wrote it out like I've asked you to do 1,000 times, you know that that's the correct answer. The other thing is you can see that B is in the third place and so is the D. So both of those are reasons why it works. Next. What additional information is needed to prove the triangles are congruent using side angle side? Side angle side. Good. Nobody picked angles. That's fantastic. The main thing to think about here is we already have a side and we already have the angle. So in order for it to be side, angle, side, we need to make sure that the angle touches the side. That's like the big important thing on this one. King Boa! That's pretty cool. Which postulate theorem proves the two triangles are congruent? So look at the given information. What proves it congruent? Good. Let's take a look at this. Okay, first of all, anytime that we see a right angle, anytime that you see a right angle, you need to ask yourself 3 questions. First, is there right angle? Obviously, there is because you're asking yourself 3 questions. The second question you're asking yourself, is there a hypotenuse? And the third one basically is the hypotenuse congruent, and then the third one is a leg congruent. If it meets those standards, then you know you have hypotenuse leg. If it doesn't meet those standards, then you might have to do something else. We'll see. Maybe about the parallelograms and squares. So here we have a right angle, we have a hypotenuse, we have a leg, so it's hypotenuse leg. So that's why it's that one. Which postulate theorem proves the two triangles are congruent? immediately you noticed you have two angles. So because you have two angles, you can eliminate choice A because that's two sides. You can eliminate choice B because that's two sides. And you can eliminate choice D because that's two sides. So actually those distractors weren't very good. Angle, angle, side would have been a better distractor. And we have a new leader. Which postulate theorem proves that triangles are congruent? Note A is the midpoint of BC. Excellent. Side angle, side's correct. Again, looking at this, we know we have our angle measures here. We have angle measures because of vertical angles. We have a side here and here, so we have side angles. So we could either have angle, angle, side, but it mentions that A is the midpoint, so that's why we have side angle, side. Melodic chicken. What additional information is needed for angle, side, angle? This is similar to something you'll see on your test. Seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds. Ah! Very good. Now, we should never have picked anything with A or D because A and D are sides. And it says angle, side, angle. You already have one angle, you already have one side, so you have to have another angle. Again, because it says angle, side, angle, we needed to make sure that the angle that we picked touched the side. BA is congruent to CD. CB is congruent to AD. This one's a trick question. I'll explain it to you in a minute. Yay! Side, side, side. Now, your math teachers would argue that because we know that these opposite sides are congruent, you could argue that these are parallelograms, and then you could also prove it by side, angle, side in any of these. So this question should have been, which would be the fastest way or the most efficient way? And then obviously it is side, side, side because of the reflexive property for BD. But technically speaking, a lot of those you could have used simply because of what the givens were. It gave you a parallelogram. All right, we're going to do, this will be our last question, and then we'll switch to another problem. Why are these congruent? This is the hardest question. And then after this, we'll switch to, another Kahoot. You have 50 seconds. And someone in my house is cooking shrimp because I can smell it in my bedroom. – 17 seconds. Yay! This is such a trick question. Let's take a look at it. All right, first of all, the main thing that we need to pay attention to is, what do they tell us? Well, they tell it's perpendicular. They tell us that UY is congruent, so right away we have a side. Anything we care about are congruent, so here we have a side. Then it gives us an angle. that tells us these angles are congruent. So right away, when we think of our song, we've got side, angle, side, 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 angle, side, angle. I got you in 1 second. And then angle, angle, side. And of course, the last one's hypotenuse leg. Remember, for it to be a hypotenuse leg, first you need to have a right angle. Then you need to have the hypotenuses being congruent. And then you need to have a leg being congruent. So if we look at this right away, we do have a side and an angle, but what's the other thing they gave us? An angle. So right away, it can't be side, angle, side. It can't be side, side, side because we have two angles. It could be angle, side, angle, and it could be angle, angle, side. Can it be hypotenuse leg? Do we have a right angle? Yes. And then it also says the last thing were that these angles were congruent. Do we have a right angle? Yep. Do we have the hypotenuses congruent? Here's our hypotenuse. Does it say they're congruent? Nope. So because it doesn't say they're congruent, it comes off. It does tell you what is congruent. It tells you what is the congruent in the problem. Exactly. There is a right angle because it's labeled. There is a right angle because of step 1. Step 1 says it's a right angle. So there is a right angle. The issue is not is there a right angle. The issue is that the W or VY is congruent to VX. They don't give us that. Because they don't give us that, we don't have hypotenuses congruent, which means we don't have hypotenuse leg. So that means it has to either be angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. When we look at our side here, our side is touching one angle, but not both. Because it's not touching both angles, it has to be angle, angle, side. It's like the school's chicken breakfast biscuit in the morning. Why can't the chicken just touch the bread? I don't know, but that's the reason. So we're going to end this game. Here comes our winners. Agile Jaguar, nice job. Third place, Melodic Chicken in second place, and Blue Bee out of nowhere. Congratulations. All right, we're going to stop with this one. Woo. Let's go. People said they wanted to do quadrilaterals. Let me see if I have a quadrilateral one I've already done that I like. Okay, would you rather do quadrilateral next or trig? Two people said trig. Okay. Let's do trig first. We won't do a ton of trig. And then we'll jump to quadrilateral. Nope, I don't want to do that. I want to do simple trig. I don't want to do word problem trig. And we won't do all of it. We'll just do a short version of it. Okay, so we'll just do the first 10 questions of this trig one, and then if anyone can stay on, we'll jump to quadrilateral next, just because most people wanted to do trig first. Just out of curiosity, is anyone on right now who's a student from another high school besides South Gwinnett? Because I did send this out to other schools. I'm just curious if it got shared out. Guess not. All right. Let's go ahead and get going. We'll give like 10 more seconds. A rational deer. That's hilarious for a math one. I love it. Rational deer. Okay. We're only going to do 10 questions. Then we'll jump on to quadrilaterals. What is the side length opposite angle J? Holy moly, we might have to do more than 10. That's too easy. Oh my gosh, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Let's go, 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 go. Pick something quick, 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 quick. Jeez, I wasn't even paying attention how quick that was. What side is adjacent to angle B? 10 seconds. Adjacent to angle B. Hypotenuse, angle adjacent. 2 seconds, 1 second. Come on, come on. Ah! You know what? I'm thinking that there's a delay in the screen and not everyone can see it, which totally is unfair. With respect to angle T, what is the hypotenuse? Which basically is what's the hypotenuse. Good job. 18. What is the length opposite angle R? Good. We had 2 people pick 101. Here's the angle R. 101 represents the hypotenuse, which is the side opposite the right angle. Trig function uses what sides? Sine. Sine is what? So. I feel like this isn't fun. I almost want to, you know what? I want to stop and pick another one because I think this is going too fast. Cosine. Cosine, cosine. Ka, 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 ka. I know, it's so fast. All right, let's do another one because I feel like you guys can't use your brains and that's not fair. Congratulations to whoever was in the lead as we totally ditch you. That was too fast. Let's look at this one. These are 20 seconds, so you have twice as long. All right, let's join back in. New one. Fuzzy rabbit. I like that one. A fearless sloth who moves extremely slow. Another rational camel. So camels must be very bright because we've got expert camel, I'll wait, and rational camel. So, you know, as opposed to fuzzy camel. Really? Camels must be really, really, really smart. All right, we're waiting on one more person. No problem. Cool. It's gonna be like, you know, and watch like the bold dove or the fearless sloth take over. No offense to my camels, but it's hilarious. Okay, Gabriel, just let us know when you're ready, and I'll hit start. Fuzzy rabbit. Happened to one of our, you ready? But we just lost one of our camels. Kalia, where are you? There we are. Okay. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. We'll still try to see if we want to do more than 10, we can, but let's see. Let's get this through because we want to hit quadrilaterals too. What sine of X? So. Remember, so, S-O-H. And here's the great news. You actually get a formula sheet and it tells you sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Fuzzy rabbit. No name, I tell ya. Cosine. Ka, ka, ka. Sound like a bird flying in the sky. Ka, ka. Yep, opposite adjacent is tangent, which probably is the next question. So everyone should get that one, right? Tangent. I just told you. Toa, soka, toa style, toa. Yay! Fuzzy rabbit, rapid cheetah. 3 in a row. What mnemonic can help you to keep the ratios straight? Pay attention to the order of the letters. Don't pick yellow. We had kids in our class pick yellow. It was so funny. Sako Tao. Yay! Blue says so ko, and remember it's so ka. So ka. So look at the angle as your theta. Look at the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse, angle, adjacent, opposite. What do you have? You have opposite and adjacent, which is TOA, tan. So you know it's red or green. And then what's the correct identity? X over 10. Ooh, we definitely got to look at this. Let me say that one more time. So we know that we have 27 degrees. Where's my pen? Okay, we know, where are you? Okay, so we always look at our hypotenuse first. Here's our angle, hypotenuse, angle, adjacent, opposite. Opposite is our X, adjacent is our 10 is our adjacent. So we have so, ka, toa. Because we don't have the hypotenuse, we can't have cosine or sine. We have to have tangent. Tangent is opposite X over adjacent 10. Tan 27 equals whatever, X over 10. Michelle, delete, hide. There it is. Okay, moving on. It ends whenever people don't want to work anymore. I was thinking by 7:30. So I'm thinking we can do the trig Kahoot and maybe the quadrilateral Kahoot, and then we will stop there. Which equation can be used to find X? Sorry, my head might be in the way for you. I'm glad. Okay. Hypotenuse, angle, adjacent, opposite. Very good. Very good. Most of us got it. Opposite, hypotenuse. Fuzzy rabbit, you're killing the camels. Not literally. Which can be used to solve for X. Find the hypotenuse, find the angle, find the adjacent, find the opposite. We have adjacent, we have a hypotenuse. What trig identity should we use in what order? 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Ah! Very good. At least everyone knew it was cosine. That's fantastic. Let's just double check real quick. Remember, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is always the side that's opposite the right angle. Theta, adjacent. Again, adjacent, X over hypotenuse 7. What equation can be used to solve for X? Think about where's your hypotenuse? Where's your angle? Where's your adjacent? Where's your opposite? Very, very, very good. It's definitely tan. Tan is opposite over adjacent. Which equation can be used to solve for X? Surprise! Excellent. Someone is doing a great job picking the right trig identity. We just have to remember the order. So because it's opposite adjacent, here's our 72. Our opposite is going across. So that's what we're mapping it to. We'll have this be our last equation. Ooh, sorry. Tangent, again, we have the hypotenuse, so it's got to be that one. All right, I'm going to end game this one, and we're going to switch to quadrilaterals. Here comes our podium of people. Fearless Sloth, very brave in third place. Rapid Cheetah. And Fuzzy Rabbit, you claimed it, no name. Congratulations. Just called it into truth. All right, let's X this out. I thought I saw a quadrilateral family one saved. And then we'll end with quadrilaterals. It says quick fire. Let's see how quick. 20 seconds. We can do 20 seconds. These might all be true, false questions. I don't know. 1, 3, 2, 8, 4, 1, 8. 1, 3, 2, 8, 4, 1, 8. Eager alpaca. That's funny. I just recently, actually, I think yesterday, I watched Evan Almighty. I don't know if you guys have seen that before, but it's like a congresswoman played by Steve Carell who ends up becoming Noah. And they have an alpaca in it. It's kind of funny. All right. We'll just wait. I think one person might have left. All right. She did. Absolutely. All right. Let's get going with 6. If I missed you, you can still sign in. The code is 1328418. Opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. Yep, true, false. And they even gave you pictures. Jeez Louise. Yep, opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. That's just fact. Next one. Consecutive angles of a parallelogram are congruent. So look at a parallelogram. Does the top angle and the bottom angle, do they look the same? Yay, everyone got it wrong. Okay, so we have a parallelogram. Remember, same side, supplementary. Consecutive angles are like the same side. So consecutive angles of a parallelogram are supplementary. Opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. But if you look at the yellow parallelogram, the top angle is an acute angle. The bottom angle is an obtuse angle. Acute and obtuse angles don't have the same measure. The only way they'd have the same measure is if they were a rectangle. So that's why that answer is false. Everyone got it wrong, so the standings stay the same. Diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. And if you've ever made a paper airplane, you should know this one. Diagonals of a rectangle are congruent. Okay, that is true. Remember, if you take a piece of paper, the diagonals are always going to be the same. And it's also, you could think of it like the Pythagorean theorem, because if you think of like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, 8.5 squared times 11 squared will give you the diagonal. So that's why that one is true. All sides of a rhombus are congruent. All sides of a rhombus are congruent. See or See. Está bien. Okay. Diagonals of a rectangle are perpendicular. Now picture in your head, if you connected on a piece of paper the diagonals, are you forming right angles in the middle? Are you? Think about it. False is correct. Okay, in order for diagonals of a square are perpendicular, diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. But diagonals of a rectangle are not perpendicular unless that rectangle happens to also be a square. Oh, I just gave you the answer to that one. Technically speaking, the diagonals of a kite are also perpendicular. Opposite bases of a trapezoid are parallel. So think like the top and bottom are parallel. That's true. Bases is the top and bottom, so those will always be parallel. Those diagonal sides won't necessarily be parallel. They will be congruent. If it's an isosceles trapezoid, they'll have the same measure. But remember, a trapezoid is just a triangle with the top cut off. So, yeah, nope. I guess we're going to be doing more than 10 of these because we're not doing so great. Diagonals of a rhombus are congruent. Look at the picture of the rhombus. Draw the diagonals. Do you think the lines are the same? That is actually false. In order for the diagonals to be congruent, you need to have right angles because that's what forms like the Pythagorean theorem. So rhombuses do not have right angles unless they're squares. So the only time you're going to have congruent diagonals is if you have a rectangle or a square. Diagonals of a kite are congruent. Look at the kite. Is it the same distance going across as it is up and down? Yay! Diagonals of a kite are also perpendicular. That would be true. And technically, one diagonal of the kite bisects the other diagonal. Consecutive angles of parallelograms are supplementary. Holy moly, I told you there's something like this first or second question. Consecutive angles. The same side angles of parallelogram are supplementary. Correct. Those are true. Opposite angles are congruent. Same side are supplementary. Diagonals of a square bisect opposite angles. So basically, if you have a square and you fold it in half, you're creating the same angle features. Yay! You create 45-degree angles, triangles. Yay! Base angles of an isosceles trapezoid are congruent. Base angles of an isosceles trapezoid. Remember, a trapezoid is just a triangle with its top cut off. It says isosceles. Base angles. It's true. A rhombus has 4 right angles. Trick question. It is true if that rhombus happens to be a square, because a square is also a rhombus. But in general, all rhombuses do not have 4 right angles, only if they are a square. Opposite angles of an isosceles trapezoid are supplementary. Kind of look at the picture, that'll kind of help you out. Get 2 seconds, pick one. That is actually true. You can kind of think if you cut it in half, you could rotate the side and it'll map up perfectly. So that is true. Lovely owl. Ooh. Diagonals of a kite are perpendicular. I already told you this earlier. Oh, I shouldn't have said it like that. We already discussed this topic earlier. An agile rhino. These are funny names. Diagonals of a parallelogram bisect opposite angles. This one I didn't know off the top of my head. Yeah, it is false. You know how I figured out it was false? Is I pictured a rectangle and I folded a rectangle in my head. and I knew that if I fold the diagonal of a rectangle, I know it doesn't overlap, so those angles can't be congruent. And because the bisecting angles aren't congruent. And because of that, and it's not true for a rectangle, I know it's not true for a parallelogram. However, the diagonals of a rhombus do bisect the angles. Diagonals of a parallelogram are congruent. True or false? Diagonals of a parallelogram are congruent. Look at the picture. It's false. Diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. The diagonals of a parallelogram are not congruent because if we had a shape that was like a really long one, I don't know what's happening all of a sudden. If we had a parallelogram like this, clearly this one and this one don't match up. I didn't do a good job drawing it, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. So let's just do 2 more questions and then we'll end for the night. Ooh, very cool, Kalia. Consecutive sides of a kite are congruent. That is true. That one felt like it went pretty fast, but it basically what they mean is when you think of a kite like this side and this side match up and these 2 sides match up. That's what they're talking about. Diagonals of a square are perpendicular. This was also discussed earlier today when we talked about rhombuses. That is actually true because remember the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular, and since a square is a rhombus, it would have to be true. Last question. A rectangle has 4 congruent sides. Yay, all of us can end on a high note. True or false? Oh my gosh, we all can end on a high note. A square has 4 congruent sides, but a rectangle does not. All right, you're going to end this game, and then we'll end for the night. Let's see who is in our leaderboard. Rational Sphinx, 12 out of 30. Technically, 12 out of 20. Agile Rhino. And lovely Owl, great job. Fantastic, everyone. All right, I'm going to stop recording.